minute here on this one to talk about something that's really at the core of all of this and is really one of the scariest things a lot of us have to face, and that's the concept of change and growth. Now, a lot of us, when we hear that word change, we're like, I don't want to do that. That hurts. That's hard. I don't want to approach that. But if we never work on changing ourselves and developing new talents and skills and new, better personality traits and things like that, then how can our relationships ever grow stronger? Because one of my pet peeves in this world is when somebody gives me the excuse that that's just the way that I am. I'm sorry, that's not good enough. I've changed. I used to be a very different person than I am today. But because I've made a concerted effort to make myself better, hopefully that I've streamlined things so that I can now have a more harmonious reaction with people around me. Is the change process tough? Sometimes, yeah. But is it worth it? And the answer is definitely. Because when we change ourselves, we present a better face to other people, and we start filling the other person's love and respect tank to the point where then we start receiving back a better treatment than what we've been getting, and that's when it really becomes worth it. Besides the fact that the concept of personal growth and self-sacrificing for somebody else is always a rewarding thing. So what do we got to do here? One of the reasons that we're teaching these principles and concepts is because we can see how much of a difference they can make in somebody's life if they can first understand the concept and become aware that there's an issue they need to work on, and then start going into the process of changing that in their lives, and how much of a giant impact that can have on every relationship around them. One of the things that a lot of us really need to think about doing is if we look at ourselves in the big picture of things and we see that we've got a whole list of things here that we really want to start working on. My challenge is to look at that list, and some of them are going to be as simple as just saying, oh, I'm not going to do that anymore. Or as simple as saying, you know what, I'm going to start doing that one. And they're real easy to roll into. Others of them are things that are going to take some concerted effort to work out. And others of them are going to be so hard and so tough for us to fix that they're going to take a lot of long-term effort. But what I've found in my life is that if I just get the easy ones out of the way and just say, okay, I've changed that. I am this way from now on. I don't do those things and I do these things. That can make a big difference right up front, because it's usually a whole bunch of things that fall into that category. And then I can start pressing forward on working on the ones that take more concerted effort. And when I start doing that incrementally over time, I can make some massive changes in my life. And also, as I start making those bigger and bigger and bigger changes, working on the intermediate ones actually begins a lot of times to lessen the difficulty of the big ones that are out there, so that by the time we conquer several of the in-between ones, we get to the point that the bigger, tougher ones may be quite a lot easier to deal with when we actually get to them. I've got to teach you a principle here that I absolutely love about this, and it's from the book called The Slight Edge, and I call it the Slight Edge principle, written by a guy named, I believe, Jeff Olson. And he teaches the principle that there are many things in life for us that are easy to do, but the flip side is they're also easy not to do. And our human nature is that we tend to not do them just because it's easier. And what I love about what he's teaching is that if we set out here and we assume that we're going to go through the next 10 years and we're going to stay right at the same level without making any changes, which quite frankly is not the way life works. We know that we can't stay at the same level, that if we're not progressing, we will by default be moving downhill. But let's forget that part of it. Let's just say that we're going to stay at the same level because we've achieved this knowledge and this set of habits and et cetera along here. If we just keep that up 10 years, we're going to end out here at this point, right here. Okay? But what if every day back down this line we started doing one little tiny thing to improve ourselves, and we started developing a new habit that eventually became something that we do more and more of every day, and we're constantly adding new things onto that we're going to compound, so that by the time we get out here to the 10 years, we're going to be so far away from where we would have been had we not tried doing those incremental little things along the line, that we won't even recognize the difference. You know, it's just an unrecognizable difference of where we would be. We couldn't have seen that. We couldn't have seen ourselves taking that jump at the 10-year mark and getting up there. But because we worked on a little bit of something every day, by the time we got there, the compounded effect of that was enormous. And that's what can happen in our lives. We can start out just the process of educating ourselves a little tiny bit at a time. As we go through that process, we can begin to, over time, begin to compound that, because it's not just the sum total of the things that we're learning. It's the fact that we start out one little habit and we get that habit mastered, and so it keeps going along here. But somewhere, once we've mastered that one, we start on another one and we start mastering it, and these things then start compounding and multiplying by each other, to the point that it's not just the little addition that goes along here. It's literally starts out as addition and then becomes multiplication and then becomes literally exponential growth, because all of these new habits we're developing are building upon and utilizing the other ones that we've already developed, to the point where we just can become much greater than what we are. So many of us are living so far under our potential because we don't want to make the little efforts it's going to take every day to better ourselves. And our potential is enormous. We can't even fathom what it is, but we can start reaching in that direction if we can start seeing a vision into the future, and if we can start learning and growing and become students and diligent at becoming applicators of the principles that we learn in our lives. It holds up for us massive potential. There is within the poorest, the worst people skilled one of us, all of the potential there to become great. But it totally relies on us to start the process and keep the process going. So many times what we really end up doing is we start the process and we go for a little while and it gets hard and old and and then we quit. But when we quit, we fall back down to the baseline. We don't just fall back part way. We fall back to the baseline. And so when we start again, we got all that effort that's going to take to get moving again, and we might go a little farther and then we quit. We go again and then we quit. And so consequently, we never get off of the baseline to any great degree. But if we can just start out and just keep growing and pushing through the desire to quit, and keep going and keep going, that's when we start to get the gap between where we are and where we would have been had we not done anything. And so I really encourage you to think about that in every area of your life. There's always going to be some area where you can find that you could develop a slight edge principle by just doing the little things that might seem insignificant and pressing forward with them. Real quick example, years ago I started running. That ends up being what I like to do to stay fit. And when I first started running, it was not fun. I'd head out and I'd get a quarter mile down the road, tired, couldn't do it. I ended up getting myself a stopwatch and then setting a goal to just do it 3 times a week and time myself and keep track of it. And when I finally got consistent at doing that, I went from barely being able to run a mile to, within a matter of months, being able to actually run ended up over the course of a couple of years being able to run a marathon. And so that's out there. It's that example of incremental growth called the slight edge. If we just seek to better ourselves in everything that we do. Dwell on that one for a while. See ya.